The comment appeared in my vision, shimmering over Ethan's head, just as he was pushing the pink cocktail across the table. The nerd has no idea that drink will give the female lead her genius boost, so she'll ace the SATs. And on cue, the jock takes his special cocktail, the male lead gets insane athleticism, and a D1 scout shows up. I adore a power couple plot. A power couple, huh? You mean stealing someone else's life, then calling it power? I swapped my glass with the one meant for the school athlete without a sound. The IQ of a brick. Endless stamina, like a chain smoker. All yours, enjoy. When those weird, floating captions first appeared, Ethan was still trying to cajole me into tasting the pink concoction in front of me. Audrey, you have to try this. His smile in the dim private room was almost predatory, the boy next door mask I'd loved for 10 years. On any other night, his words would have lit me up. I would have gulped it down, low tolerance and all, just for the warmth of his attention. But the captions had planted a seed of doubt. I pretended to hesitate. Finals are in 3 months, Ethan. I have stacks of practice tests to get through tonight. Alcohol will fog my brain. How about after the SATs? My treat. I made this for you, he said, a little too smooth. I'm calling it the Audrey. Your namesake. Just one sip.
Wrong.
Something was wrong. I knew Ethan, really knew him.
He did not like me.
For years I'd drifted behind him while he chased Olivia Reed, the school's golden girl, making it his business to make her smile. For him to mix me a drink, to practically beg me to drink it, was beyond odd. It was a red flag. Another caption glowed above his perfect hair. Poor Ethan, sucking up to this four-eyed loser for Olivia. Her glasses only make Olivia look more like a goddess in comparison. Drink it already, nerd. Stop wasting time.
So that was the story, then.
Ethan and Olivia were the protagonists. He, the handsome golden boy from wealth, she, the effortless it girl. Their will they won't they drama was the kind of thing that somehow let them glide into top universities without cracking a book. And apparently, the plot needed a nudge. They were being handed shortcuts, poisoned little boosts to steal my academic edge and Jax Vance's natural athleticism. I stared at the pink drink, a bitter laugh caught in my throat. So the leads' lives mattered because people were watching and the rest of us were props? My #1 rank, the title I'd held since freshman year, built from sleepless nights and stacked textbooks, could be taken with one cheap cocktail. Looking at his fake smile, I felt sick. I picked up my glass. Ethan watched my hand like a hawk, suddenly taut. I lifted the rim to my lips, then paused. What's wrong? He asked too quickly. My heart's acting up, I said, borrowing a truth. I think I left my pills in the other room. Could you grab them? I was born with a minor heart condition that required daily meds, a perfect, private excuse. He hesitated. I swirled the pink liquid. By the time you get back, this will be empty. Promise. That was enough. Ethan practically ran from the room. The instant he left, I scanned the party for Olivia. She was on the balcony, handing a drink to Jax. Of course. They were in it together. Ethan leaned on me for Olivia's sake. Olivia leaned on her connection with Jax to get him to hand over his natural gifts. I caught a waiter, pressed a $100 bill into his palm, and asked him to pretend to spill a tray on Olivia. He did it flawlessly, apologizing with overdone shame. Olivia, ever the gracious queen, smiled through it. It's fine. I'll just go to the restroom and clean up. Before she left, she shot Jax a look, pointedly. That drink is amazing. You have to try it. Jax, propped against the railing with that casual, I don't care posture, raised the glass in a lazy salute and sipped without thinking. The moment Olivia was out of sight, he lifted the glass to his lips. I lunged and snatched it away. He spun, surprised. You. We moved in different orbits at school, but there was no time for social awkwardness. I shoved my pink cocktail into his hand. Trade you. Jax blinked. Ignoring him, I lifted the drink I'd taken from him and bumped it against his. Here's to new friends. My first instinct had been to dump the liquid, but why waste it? If Ethan and Olivia wanted to siphon our futures, they deserved the consequences. I had swapped the glasses. Let Olivia walk into the SATs carrying Jax's last in his class academic record. Let Ethan show up for his athletic trials with my fragile, stares leave me breathless body. And my congenital heart problem hidden in quiet medication that was a little extra seasoning. I'm generous by nature. He could have it all, I thought, and smiled without regret. Jax was still staring, confusion written all over his face. Realizing how strange I must have sounded, I quickly added, "Don't worry, I didn't drink from your glass." He gave a half grin, lazy but charming. "Doesn't matter." He swirled the pink cocktail I'd handed him and downed it in one go. "Wouldn't have cared if you did." Since we'd barely spoken before, I didn't know what to say next. I simply nodded and went back to my seat. The moment I sat down, the world tilted. I wasn't used to alcohol, and whatever was in that drink was no joke. Ethan came back just then, spotting the empty glass and my unsteady posture. Relief flooded his face. "Good. You drink it." He tossed my pill bottle onto the table. "If you're not feeling well, take your meds. Then get home. These parties aren't for people like you." Across the room, Olivia waved him over. Ethan smoothed his hair, already preparing to go. I caught his sleeve. "You expect me to get home like this?" He sighed, irritation flickering in his eyes. "The night's just starting. We're going to karaoke next. You want me to skip that to babysit you?" For a second, I just stared at him. How had I ever fallen for someone this shallow? Whatever script was running this world must have been heavy on brainwashing. I dropped his sleeve. "Get lost." "What did you just say?" His disbelief was almost comical. I met his gaze. "You heard me. Piss off. As of today, Audrey Shen is done with you." His smirk returned, condescending as ever. "You're drunk. When you sober up, you'll regret that and come crawling back." He lingered, maybe waiting for me to backtrack, but when Olivia called again, he left. I pushed myself to my feet and headed outside, the cool air a small relief against the fog in my head. Two drunk guys were stumbling down the sidewalk. Their eyes lingered too long. I pulled out my phone and pretended to be on a call, hoping they'd pass. Just as unease crept into my stomach, they spotted something, or someone, behind me and hurried away. I turned to see Jax leaning against a lamppost, hands in his pockets. "You heading home too?" I asked. "Yeah," he said shortly, though the rideshare app on his screen was still unopened. "Can I ask you something?" I hesitated, then smiled faintly. Might sound weird. He straightened a little, the tips of his ears turning pink. Sure? About your grades? Are you really last in our class because you can't do better, or are you just pretending?" He choked on air, coughing a few times before muttering, "I just don't try, okay? I'm not dumb. If I actually put effort in." "Don't," I interrupted. "Stay exactly where you are. Last place suits you perfectly." His confusion was almost adorable, but I didn't care. If Olivia had inherited his academic skill, she was in for a disaster. I couldn't wait to see her sitting in the SAT exam hall, mind blank as paper. While I was savoring that image, Jax was watching me, his cheeks tinted pink, eyes wide as if I'd said something outrageous. The next morning, the results from the monthly mock exams were posted. As usual, my name topped the list. Our homeroom teacher smiled proudly. "Excellent work, Audrey. Keep this up, and every top university will be after you." Whispers filled the classroom. "She'll probably score perfect on the verbal section next. I heard Ivy Leagues are already scouting her." Then the teacher's eyes landed on Olivia. "Finals are coming up. Some of you should spend less time on makeup tutorials and more on textbooks. You were ranked in the top 100 last month, and now you've dropped to 300. Olivia didn't even blink, busy reapplying her lip gloss. When class ended, she leaned toward her friends and whispered, "These little tests don't matter. Only the SATs count." One of them frowned. "But no one can guarantee they'll do well that day." "Others can't," Olivia said smoothly. "But I can." And right then, the floating captions appeared again. "That's our girl. Princeton. Here she comes. Beauty and brains, the perfect lead. The nerdy side character's fine. She gets the leftover grades, enough for a local college. That's already generous." So the audience had no idea I'd changed the story. They still thought the drinks went as planned. Since I wasn't the main character, my choices were invisible to them, which meant I could use their comments to predict what should have happened. Olivia caught me watching her and smirked. "Enjoy it while you can. Things will change soon." I bit back a laugh. Oh, they would. I couldn't wait for her to realize Jax's grades were, well, non-existent. At the back of the classroom, Jax was asleep again, face buried in his arms. I used to think he was just lazy, wasting potential. Now, seeing him like that almost made me smile. A draft blew in from the open window, rustling his hair. I walked over quietly and shut it. "Can't have anything disturbing your nap," I whispered, gently patting his head. Jax's eyes opened for a brief second, locking with mine. His face turned crimson, and he ducked back into his arms immediately. What a dedicated sleeper. I turned to head back to my seat and walked right into Ethan. He'd skipped class again for basketball, and now he stood blocking my path. "Audrey," he said, voice low, "you don't need to humiliate yourself for attention. Throwing yourself at random guys won't make me like you." Before I could respond, a hand shot out. Jax punched Ethan square in the jaw, sending him sprawling. He grabbed Ethan's collar, eyes blazing. "If your mouth's full of garbage, keep it shut." "You." Ethan started, but Jax towered over him, broad-shouldered, solid muscle from years of training. No wonder Ethan wanted his athletic ability. Ethan wiped blood from his lip and sneered. "We'll see what you've got at the athletic trials tomorrow. You brag about being D1 material, right? Let's see if you can even run." Jax didn't answer, just tightened his jaw. And I couldn't help but smile. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. Ethan's natural athletic skill had always been average at best. But he was convinced that with Jax's abilities supposedly transferred to him, he'd dominate the trials and steal the spotlight. Then, right as I was enjoying his overconfidence, a sharp cramp twisted in my stomach. A moment later, warmth spread down my abdomen. Perfect timing. Tomorrow, Ethan would wake up with my frail stamina, a mild heart condition, and now a full-blown period, one that had arrived a week early. I could hardly wait. The next morning, the stadium was buzzing. Crowds filled the stands, and even a few local bloggers with cameras had shown up, clearly invited by Ethan to record his big moment. He strutted out of the locker room, all swagger, and tossed his sweaty jersey straight at my head. "Good seat choice," he said. "Knew you wouldn't miss this." I peeled the disgusting fabric off my face, wiped the bottom of my shoe with it, and threw it under the bench. His smile faltered. "What's your problem?" "Still mad I didn't drive you home that night." He tilted his head, smirking again. "You're this angry, but you still showed up to watch me. Guess you can't stay away." Every second of conversation with him felt like it drained brain cells. I forced a sweet smile. "Good luck." "Of course, I pointed behind him. I was talking to him. Jax was stretching nearby, his calm presence cutting through the noise. Ethan turned, his smirk returning.
"Sure.
Watch closely. You're about to see a masterpiece." Olivia appeared a moment later, radiant as always. Ethan's entire face softened. "Wait for me at the finish line. First thing I'll do is hug you." Olivia blushed. "There are cameras everywhere." "Let them see," he said grandly. "You're the only one I want." The floating captions popped up again. "They're so perfect together." This is it, the power-up scene. Ethan's going to crush the record. After today, every national team will want him. The background jock doesn't matter. He's just there to make the lead shine. Disgust rolled through me. No wonder the main characters in this world were so unbearable if that was the audience rooting for them. I turned to leave, but Olivia called after me, her voice dripping with false pity. "Audrey, it must be hard, having your childhood friend ignore you for me." "Please," I said, waving my hands quickly. "Don't feel bad. You two are perfect for each other. Truly. The less either of them mingled with the rest of humanity, the safer the world would be." The athletes lined up for warm-ups. Ethan bent down to stretch, and the air filled with a faint crack. His face blanched.
What was that? The coach asked. "Nothing."
"Just stiff," Ethan said through gritted teeth. "Then shake it off and run like you usually do." He could have just relied on his natural ability and gotten a decent score, but greed always demanded more. The event, 800 meters. The starting gun fired, and Ethan promptly tripped over his own foot, face-planting into the track. Gasps erupted. He jumped up, furious, but within seconds it became clear something was very wrong. His legs felt heavy, his chest tight. Each breath was a struggle. Meanwhile, Jax glided across the track like it was nothing, leading the pack. Ethan's panic was almost audible. "Why can't I move?" A fresh wave of pain hit him low in the abdomen. He stumbled again, clutching his stomach. "Ethan," his coach shouted. "What's going on? You running with cramps? The girls are faster than you." I scratched the back of my head, trying not to laugh. "Sorry, coach. That's actually accurate." To make sure he felt everything, I hadn't taken any painkillers that morning. It was a small sacrifice for a much greater victory. Ethan somehow dragged himself back up and staggered toward the finish line, clutching his stomach. His wheezing gasps drew more laughter than sympathy. The bloggers he'd paid to capture his triumph glanced at one another, unsure whether to keep filming. In the end, they did. Content was content, after all. By the time Ethan limped across the line, Jax had already cooled down, changed shirts, and was eating a banana. Ethan's final time. 5 minutes flat. Olivia, the supportive girlfriend, was nowhere near the finish line. The floating captions flickered in confusion. Wait, this isn't right. Did the author change the plot? Where's Olivia? Did she ditch him? No way. She probably had an emergency. But what's wrong with the lead? He stole the power-up and still flopped. And then it dawned on Ethan. Olivia had never actually given the drink to Jax. She'd fooled him, swapping it with someone else. She'd betrayed him. I strolled over, a bottle of water in hand. Ethan was hunched over, face pale and sweaty. When he saw me, his eyes softened, like he thought I might still care. He reached a trembling hand toward me. Audrey, today wasn't my best. I walked past him and handed the bottle to Jax. Congrats, I said simply. Jax blinked, caught off guard. Someone nearby chuckled. You're late, he already finished one. Before I could reply, Jax unscrewed the cap and drank the whole thing in one go. Thanks, he said with a lazy grin. I gave him a thumbs up. Impressive. Audrey. Ethan grabbed my arm, voice sharp with frustration. Do you really have to humiliate me? I pulled free, glancing pointedly toward the empty space beside the track. Didn't Olivia bring you water? I thought you two were celebrating together. His face twisted. It's not what you think between us. I don't care what it is, I said lightly, eyeing the way he held his stomach. Hurts, doesn't it? He hesitated, then nodded, hoping for sympathy.
Yeah.
Can you help me get to the nurse's office? Oh, it hurts? I said sweetly. Funny, last month when I had cramps and asked you to grab painkillers, you told me I was overreacting. Said, none of the other girls complain. You're just being dramatic. Ethan's face went slack. This isn't the same thing. Could have fooled me. A few onlookers snorted. Ethan flushed with anger. Audrey, don't push me. A shadow loomed beside me. Jax stepped forward, tall and unflinching. He didn't say a word, but Ethan backed off all the same. He turned on his heel and stalked away, muttering under his breath. I was about to leave too, still had a practice test waiting when Jax called out. Wait here. He disappeared for a few minutes, then came jogging back, a small paper bag in hand. Inside were a can of ginger tea and a box of Midol. I figured you might need these, he said, a little breathless. Before I could respond, he slipped off his jacket and tied it around my waist. It took me a second to realize why, and then my face warmed. Thanks, I said softly. Jax smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. He really was a good guy. And maybe, as a tiny token of gratitude, he deserved something nice in return. Olivia's academic ability, for instance. She wasn't Ivy League material, but she wasn't hopeless either. If their swap held, Jax would gain enough to balance out his transcript, and she'd get exactly what she deserved. After Ethan's athletic trial disaster, his only hope now was the SATs. From what I overheard, he and Olivia weren't exactly on good terms anymore. One afternoon, I caught them arguing in the stairwell. Ethan had her backed into a corner. What went wrong with the drink? Who did you actually give it to? I told you, it was Jax. Olivia snapped. I left, came back, and the glass was empty. Who else could have drunk it? Then why did I feel like my body was made of lead? How should I know? If it wasn't your fault, why have you been dodging me since that day? Feeling guilty. Olivia's patience snapped. Because everyone's seen the video of your race. People made memes out of it. They're calling you the guy who looks like he's trying to sprint and poop at the same time. It's humiliating. I couldn't help it. A snort escaped me. Both of them froze, turning toward the corner where I stood. I stepped out casually, pretending innocence, then paused. Hey, Olivia, could you send me the link to that video? I'd love to see it. Ethan muttered something about lawsuits and stormed off. Olivia, switching gears in a heartbeat, gave me a syrupy smile. Audrey, the SATs are coming up. With your grades, Princeton's practically a sure thing. The whole school's cheering for you. Sure, she was. The higher my score, the better hers would be. I sighed. I don't know why, but I can't seem to focus lately. Why not? Leaving campus for meals eats up my study time. Olivia straightened up, brimming with self-importance. Don't worry, I'll handle it. You just study. I'll bring you food. And just like that, I got myself a personal assistant. Every day, she showed up with carefully balanced, brain-boosting meals. After a week, I started picking at my food, frowning in frustration. "What's wrong now?" she asked, panicking. "I can't see the blackboard clearly from the fifth row. I feel like I'm missing things." That very afternoon, Olivia confronted our class president. "Switch seats with Audrey." He blinked. "Why would I do that? Audrey's going to be a state scholar. You'll be lucky to get into a state school. Shouldn't you support her future?" The classroom erupted. "What's wrong with you, Olivia? If Audrey wants to switch, she can ask herself." "Yeah, why are you picking fights for her?" I buried my face in my hands. "Please stop. I can't study when people are yelling." Olivia dragged the president outside. 10 minutes later, she bribed him with $500. He switched seats, looking way too pleased with himself. I sighed and smiled sweetly. "You're so thoughtful, Olivia." She forced a grin. "Anything for you, Audrey.
Just keep studying.
I'll take care of the rest." I had to bite my lip not to laugh. The woman's work ethic was truly inspiring, if only it weren't entirely evil. A few days later, a new distraction showed up, Ethan. I don't know if he was trying to get back at Olivia or if his ego just couldn't handle being ignored, but he suddenly decided to win me over. First came the flowers and chocolates. Then he started buttering up my parents. He'd show up after school, grinning under the streetlights. "Come on, Audrey," he said one evening. "You could get into an Ivy even if you stopped studying today.
Take a break.
Let's hang out. Remember your freshman year resolution? You said you wanted to go to the same college as me."
I'm still set on that.
"Let's make it happen." His voice, his face, it all pulled me back to one memory. The summer after middle school graduation, our families went to the beach. I lost my glasses in the water, and some kids started taunting me, 4 eyes, bug eye, all that. Before I could grab them back, a wave knocked me under. I remember choking on salt water, struggling for air, then a hand pulled me out. Ethan's. Later, in the hospital, he sat by my bed, drenched and shivering, saying, "You scared the life out of me." The sunlight caught his hair, and I'd thought, he's the kindest boy in the world. Now, looking at him, all I saw was a stranger wearing that boy's face. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Olivia, my self-appointed study manager, would handle this nuisance soon enough. During the first official mock exam, I deliberately missed a few questions. My national ranking dropped by 800 spots. Olivia was horrified. She cornered me after class. "What happened? Are you sick?" "I just got distracted," I said, pretending to blush. "I kept thinking about going to the amusement park with Ethan. He said he wants to go to the same university as me. Maybe I don't need to try so hard anymore." "You can't think like that," she cried, practically shaking. "Ethan likes me. You were right the first time. He's only talking to you to make me jealous." I frowned. "But you're not even talking right now." And he told me, "We just had a fight. I'm fixing it. You just focus on your destiny, studying." She whirled away, muttering to herself, already plotting how to win him back. Honestly, I was touched. Other than my parents, no one had ever been so committed to my academic success. She'd do anything to keep me studying. Winning Ethan back turned out to be harder than Olivia imagined. She went all in, launching a full-blown, theatrical campaign to reclaim his attention, making sure every corner of the school buzzed with her dramatic gestures and confessions. I couldn't help exhaling in relief. For a while, I'd worried that changing the storyline so drastically would trigger the system to interfere again. But as soon as Olivia and Ethan became the center of gossip once more, the glowing captions floating around them turned syrupy sweet, praising the bravery of a girl chasing love.
Perfect.
That meant I was off the hook, free to pour my energy into my final reviews. Before long, SAT day arrived. As if fate had a flair for irony, Ethan, Olivia, and I all ended up assigned to the same testing center. Once the results of our previous exams were finalized, Olivia dropped her nice girl mask. She cornered me in the hallway, a smug smile plastered across her face. Well, the school genius herself, she mocked, her tone thick with fake admiration. #1 on the last mock test. You must feel pretty invincible today. I'm so jealous. If only I had half your brains. I tilted my head thoughtfully. Maybe in your next life. If you come back with a new brain, you might actually stand a chance. Her expression froze, mouth slightly open. By the time she processed my words, I was already halfway into the exam room. She called after me, her voice sharp as a knife. "Let's see how the great scholar performs today. I'll be waiting to laugh." I glanced back over my shoulder. You really can't stop thinking about me, huh? You've been watching me for months, always talking about me. Don't tell me you're in love. Sorry, you're not my type. You. Her face flushed a furious mix of red and white. Just you wait, she spat. You won't be so smug soon. The last person who said that to me was Ethan, I said calmly. Now he's the school's favorite meme. I'd hate for you to follow in his footsteps. Without waiting for her reply, I stepped into the exam room. I'd been waiting for this moment for months. When the test booklet landed in my hands, I smiled faintly. This was it. The finish line. Meanwhile, in another classroom, Olivia sat down with all the confidence in the world. She twirled her pencil between her fingers, already imagining the Ivy League recruiters fighting over her, Harvard versus Princeton, maybe even Stanford. There'd be interviews, media features, and photo shoots. She'd make sure to do a face mask later, so her skin glowed for her first TV appearance as the beautiful genius. The proctor caught her grinning and gently reminded her the test had started. No problem. With Audrey's brain, she could breeze through it in under 90 minutes. But as soon as she flipped open the booklet, her grin vanished. The first section was verbal reasoning. No equations, just logic and comprehension. Yet the words blurred on the page. The grammar questions looked like hieroglyphs. The vocabulary completely foreign. When she got to the reading comprehension part, it was as if she'd forgotten how to read altogether. By the time the proctor called time, Olivia had only filled half her essay and was sweating through her blouse. What's happening? She panicked. Is Audrey really this bad at English? No, that can't be right. She consoled herself, deciding the potion probably needed more time to take effect. So what if she bombed one section? She'd crush the math part and balance things out. Then the math section arrived. And with it, true despair. She couldn't make sense of a single question.
Not one.
The numbers looked alien, the formulas meaningless. Every time she tried to focus, her vision swam, and she felt drowsy, as if her brain had short-circuited. Halfway through, the proctor noticed her shaking leg and pencil shavings all over her desk. There's 1 hour remaining, he reminded gently. Olivia suddenly clutched her head and let out a loud, strangled scream. Before anyone could react, she tore her exam paper into pieces and bolted from the classroom, leaving her classmates frozen in stunned silence. It took me about 1.5 hours to finish the entire exam and review every answer. Everything felt solid, flawless even. Just as I set my pencil down, movement by the door caught my eye. Olivia's face was pressed against the glass, her eyes wild with fury. A second later, she began pounding on the door and shouting.
Why?
Why couldn't I solve anything? What's wrong with me? The proctors rushed to restrain her before she could barge in. I watched calmly, resting my chin on my hand. You couldn't handle the math section? That's not exactly shocking, Olivia. It's pretty on brand. She knew better. This wasn't just about a bad test day. She had taken the potion. She was supposed to have my knowledge, to become this year's top scholar. But instead, she had lost even the intelligence she once had. Her mind was empty, her academic life destroyed in a single afternoon. The consequence was immediate. Olivia's exam was invalidated for disrupting the session, and she was banned from retaking it for a full year. Not that it mattered. Even if she could, she wouldn't qualify for any decent university. On the final day of exams, glowing captions drifted back into my vision. Wait, what happened to the main plotline? The heroine's disqualified, and the hero flunked his athletic trials and barely scraped into a second-rate college. Wasn't this supposed to be a power couple romance? Where's the chemistry? I feel scammed. I want a refund. The author totally lost control. What's next? They meet again in a factory and fall back in love over conveyor belts. I still remember when they met 3 years ago on that beach at sunset. It was supposed to be their fated beginning. How did it end up like this? My heart skipped a beat. 3 years ago, the summer solstice, that was right after middle school graduation. The day I nearly drowned at the beach. If Ethan met Olivia that evening, then who was the one who pulled me from the water? The thought spun through my mind in chaos. Lost in thought, I walked straight into someone's chest outside the exam center. I looked up to see Jax, flashing a grin that showed all his white teeth. So, genius, how'd it go? He asked, then laughed. What am I saying? Even on your worst day, you'd still outscore everyone else. I smiled faintly. How about you? He rubbed the back of his neck, his grin widening. Weirdly enough, everything just clicked today. Problems I couldn't solve before suddenly made sense. The answers came to me like I already knew them. He didn't realize that Olivia's stolen knowledge had found its way into his head instead. He didn't even need the score, but it was a fitting twist of fate. "Good for you," I said. His ears turned pink. "Guess I'm not completely hopeless after all." I patted his shoulder. "There are no hopeless people, only lazy ones. As long as you try, you're not stupid." He nodded shyly. "Then, I'll keep trying. From now on." That evening, Ethan showed up at my house. I'd just finished trying on the white dress my mom had given me for graduation. Light, airy, and delicate. I hadn't even had time to change when he appeared at the door, holding a bouquet of flowers and wearing a confident smile. When his eyes met mine, he froze for a second. "Audrey, after your eye surgery, without the glasses, you look amazing." He shifted the bouquet awkwardly. "I think I can get into Duke. We could go together." I stared at him like he'd lost his mind. "Are you serious?" I wanted to unleash every bitter word in my head, but my throat closed up. Then, the captions returned. Finally, the plots realigned. The female lead turns down Princeton to follow the male lead to Duke. They become the perfect campus couple. So, the author just swapped heroines? Fine, this new girl's not as pretty as Olivia, but she has that sweet, innocent vibe. I love a smart female lead trope.
What?
So now I was being rewritten into the story as Ethan's new love interest? I'd rather vanish completely. An invisible force started tugging at me, pressing words into my throat. I'd love to. I struggled to resist, every muscle tense. My voice trembled. I'd love to. Go to hell. I screamed, breaking free of the control. I glared upward, shouting at whatever unseen entity thought it could dictate my life. Are you joking? That guy is your leading man? Who would ever want to be paired with garbage like him? My life is mine, and no one gets to rewrite it. Then I turned to Ethan, fury sharpening every word. And as for you in the story of my life, you're just a background extra. Don't ever come near me again. I don't want to see you, talk to you, or even remember you. In that instant, the captions dissolved, fading out of existence like smoke. Ethan stood frozen, his mouth opening and closing, but no sound came out. And I knew I was finally free. Free from the narrative, from the manipulation, from him. From that day on, I was just me, Audrey Shen, the top scholar. A legend in the making. And my story was only beginning. Just as everyone expected, my results made me the state's top scholar. I enrolled at Caltech and threw myself into aerospace engineering, learning how to build rockets from scratch. College opened my eyes to just how vast the world really was and how much there was left to discover. The constant challenge, the endless learning, it was the most alive I'd ever felt. Every once in a while, when I went home for holidays, I'd overhear bits of gossip about Ethan. Apparently, he had chosen to repeat his senior year, and rumor had it he was studying like a man possessed. There was also talk that Olivia was repeating the year too, trying to apply to an art school. I figured the so-called author had probably rewritten their storyline again. Whatever new plot they were stuck in, it wasn't my problem anymore. During my sophomore year, my roommate dragged me to a mixer hosted by a nearby university. I wasn't expecting much, just free snacks and forced small talk, until I spotted a familiar face across the room.
Jax.
He didn't look even slightly surprised to see me. In fact, he looked like he'd been waiting for this. He walked straight up to me, his grin as bold as ever. "Audrey, I came here for you." His words set off a round of cheers and teasing from everyone nearby, but I stayed calm and gestured for him to follow me somewhere quieter. "The day at the beach, 3 years ago," I said softly. "It was you who saved me, wasn't it?" Ethan had confessed as much the last time I saw him. The one who dove into the deep water that day couldn't have been him. It had to be someone with real strength and stamina, someone like Jax. Back in middle school, they'd been on the same basketball team. Ethan always hated that he couldn't measure up to him, so he stole credit for the rescue and kept the truth from me. I looked at Jax. "Thank you," I said sincerely, "for saving me and for proving that the guy I liked back then wasn't the hero I thought he was."
His eyes softened.
"You liked me?" Before I could answer, he chuckled. "Yeah, you did."
Why?
I asked, raising an eyebrow. He shrugged, his gaze unwavering. "There doesn't have to be a reason. I saw you once in the school hallway and that was it. Liking someone doesn't always make sense." I studied him for a moment, then said evenly, "I'm not the kind of girl who falls for someone just because they saved me once." Then I added, half teasing, half honest, "Besides, you're not exactly known for your brains." He froze, speechless. Wow. He'd always been dead last in class. Honestly, I was worried we might have trouble communicating. That day, Jax did everything he could to prove me wrong. By the end of it, he looked both exhausted and desperate. "I'll study," he said earnestly. "I swear I will." Something in his voice made me smile. Maybe I had a weakness for people who refused to stay the same. So I handed him a stack of my old high school notebooks. Inside the first one, I'd written a single line in neat handwriting. "The pursuit of knowledge never ends."